African Perspective with me, Aldrin Simpier. The conversation that we're having today is focusing on the opposition in Zimbabwe and the state of crisis that this opposition in Zimbabwe is on at the moment. And we have Khalipani Phukeni. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost the connection to him. But we also have Dewa Mavinga, who is a human rights lawyer. Good evening and welcome to African Perspective. Listening in to what Khalipani had to say earlier on, with regards to how Thokozani Kupe was allegedly treated. The question then becomes, can we expect of the opposition to have at its core the values of human rights when they themselves don't treat each other with those values that pertain to human rights?
Well, thank you, Simpier, for this program. Yes, there were mistakes that were clearly made around the Morgan Tsvangirai succession. And at the time, we, as human rights activists, raised concerns around the use of violence by party youths and urged the democratic movement to demonstrate its democratic and human rights respecting values. So that is a position that we are clear about. But I think what is quite concerning is that some of these mistakes by these different leaders within the MDC family fed into a broader strategy by the state, of which the key institutions in Zimbabwe are not independent. For example, the judiciary, the police, and as such, the state has a huge stake and is out to decimate completely the opposition. You can talk of divide and rule. You can talk on using the law to put away, make it difficult for the opposition to thrive. So this is the biggest concern as we observe from the sidelines, that the state is taking maximum advantage of these divisions and fissures to decimate the opposition in Zimbabwe and to ensure that perhaps we go to the idea of a one-party state. So this is what seems to be the grand strategy. And some of the things that are happening now do not make political sense at all, given that in July 2018, the different groups went into elections separately. Yeah. We know the outcomes of those elections. So now what would be best would really be a reset button to amicably separate and say who is who in terms of political leadership and follower, and in terms of moving forward as an opposition movement in Zimbabwe.
And I guess, though, it doesn't help that you have even the youth organizations or the subordinate organizations of these two factions also being at each other's throats. And look at what has happened to Morgan Tsvangirai House just quite recently on Monday.
Well, yes, and I think the huge concern, the overarching concern is the role of the state in terms of to what extent has the movement been infiltrated, and the state is really controlling and pushing for a divide and rule and a way to completely decimate the opposition. And this is perhaps what some of the leaders may not be aware of, that the genuine differences that may be there are now being exploited by a government that is out to destroy, a government that controls state institutions. So unlike in South Africa, where the judiciary is fairly robust, independent, in Zimbabwe, partisanship is a problem.
Okay, Khalipani, I'm going to ask you to be please brief in your response to this particular question, and that is, listening into what Dewa just had to say, would you agree to a sentiment that says that Thokozani Kupe is complicit in this strategy to divide and rule the opposition?
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Dewa. I'd missed you, and I'm sorry for the fidgeting. I didn't know that I'm already on air. I resent that sentiment with the contempt it deserves. Dr. Kupe is someone with full agency. She's allowed what is happening. Remember, she formed this party. She didn't find it along the way. She formed it. Those values that you see there, they were thought over in our constitution. The principles, the objectives of the MDC, these are things that they deliberated on at length with their peers at the ZCTU before they started this thing, before they invited churches and other NGOs. So you cannot say to Dr. Kupe, sacrifice the values of the MDC, sacrifice the principles, sacrifice the objectives of the MDC on the altar of this majority in opposition. It doesn't work. This is what I've said in other interviews. We are working on progress. It's not so much about the numbers. Numbers matter because they allow us to carry out our programs. But it's not numbers for their own sake. It must be numbers on a consensus or a convergence around the values, around the principles, and around the objectives.
But then what do you then say? What do you then say that this particular stance that she has taken, and as you say that she is within her rights to do this because she was part of the founding members of the party, that this particular stance has led to a situation where you have more than 24 members of parliament and senators who rejected her leadership being recalled? That does lead to division within the opposition, don't you agree?
No, not really. Remember that our national constitution says once a member ceases to be a member of a party that sponsored him or her, she can no longer be a member of parliament. That's what the national constitution says. Our party constitution says once you support another party or you leave and join another party, you can no longer represent us. I think that's sensible. It is happening in South Africa. You've seen the EFF remove a lot of members that no longer belonged to it.
Yeah.
Why do you want an exception for Zimbabwe? Musi Maimane took the DA to a general election. Right now, he is no longer there, and no one is talking about it. Do not make exceptions for that. Let me go to Zimbabwe itself. Nelson Chamisa, when he illegally took over power, violently so, the first act which he did was unconstitutionally and legally remove Kupe under the false pretext he is no longer a member of the party. So this is not a new phenomenon. The challenge that you have, you lack the courage to say, right now you've touched our favorite, and then therefore we will create studies. We'll try and blame Dr. Kupe. There is nothing new he has done. What she's doing is normal practice that has been done before.
So the tension is quite palpable. We're going to let me ask Trust quickly. Trust, do you think that at any point whatsoever that the opposition in Zimbabwe will be able to unite, but also considering the arguments that are made by Kalipani?
Okay, I don't know. I think I lost your sound there. I think there is still a possibility that there can be unity in the opposition. I really want to commend the action or what has been done by the youth. Our youth have decided to come together. The youth from our structures in 2014, in response to the pronouncement of the Supreme Court judgment, that the structures of 2014 should decide to elect a new leader in the extraordinary Congress. So that is a sign that the opposition will be able to come and work together. But at the same time, I just want to debunk quickly some of the false allegations.
Okay, I need you to be quick on that one.
Kalipani.
I need you to be quick on that one so that we can get Tinashe into the conversation as well.
Yeah, the allegations made by Kalipani of MDC being a violent part, Advocate Chamisa being a violent person, being a tribal person, those are theories and propaganda created by mostly as unpaid people and thrown in the oppositions for people to buy into such kind of cheap statements. It's very unfair. I can talk about the Buera theory. I was there. I know what happened. Even the people that came from that bus who were singing, they were not actually they were actually from Blawa. Those people who started to sing and chant songs. And what happened there is not true that the people wanted to ban our Madam Thokozani. There were threats and singing, and angry people were frustrated. Yes, but it's not true that there was nothing that could stop those people from burning the hell. But I think they're blowing everything out of proportion.
Okay.
Yes, we condemn all violence, and Advocate Chamisa condemned violence. He is a man of peace. He always talks peace, and he never grabbed the power violently like Kalpane had been saying.
Tinashe, why is your party not benefiting from this, this tension between the different factions of the MDC?
Okay, thank you. Our problem in our country is that every leader is the desire and is to be the president. We have over 200 political parties in Zimbabwe, and every leader wants to be a president. Imagine a smaller country like Zimbabwe having almost 23 presidential candidates. It's madness. What my party is seeking to do is to realize that we have got a political intolerance. Our desire is power. We are not leaders who can compromise for the beneficiation of the ordinary Zimbabweans, the poor people.
Yeah.
We are leaders.
But the question is, why is your party not benefiting from all of this? Shouldn't your party be benefiting from all of this and be able to consolidate this, the opposition within Zimbabwe? Because you're not going through the tension, right?
Yeah, I'm not going through the tension, but what we are seeking to do as a party, we have got a movement called #Unite Zimbabwe. We are uniting all the political parties, church leaders, students, civic society, business community. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the cases, spike in COVID-19 cases, 30 October, we had earmarked a dinner where we had invited all the leaders in Zimbabwe. There's too much partisanship. There's too much personal political, interest. We are now fostering every party, every Zimbabwean must know that national interest comes above party and personal interest.
Okay, and let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that, Tinashe, that national interest comes above party interest. We can go on and on with this debate, but gentlemen, thank you thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. So, moving on to this story, the most decorated coach in the country